The bright California sun beat down on the streets of San Diego. Emily Carter, a smart, cheerful 17-year-old high school student, was walking home from her part-time job at the coffee shop. She carried her sketchbook in her bag, her only treasure. Life for Emily seemed normal, but someone had been watching her for weeks. Across the street, a black SUV slowed down. Inside sat Victor Kane, a ruthless human trafficker who had made a fortune abducting girls for the black market. He had powerful connections, dirty cops on payroll, and a reputation that made people vanish in silence. But today, he wanted to make a bold move, snatch Emily in broad daylight to prove no one could touch him. Emily turned into an alley shortcut. That's when the SUV screeched to a stop and two men jumped out. One grabbed her from behind, the other blocked her path. She screamed, clawed, and kicked, but their strength was overwhelming. Suddenly, a deep, commanding voice echoed from the other side of the street. "Let her go." It was Jack Reynolds, Emily's uncle, a recently retired Navy SEAL. He had just returned from Afghanistan and was staying with Emily and her mom, Sarah Carter, to reconnect with family after years away. Jack wasn't just any SEAL. He was known among his brothers as the Ghost, because of his ability to appear out of nowhere and end fights before they even began. Emily cried, "Uncle Jack." The goons hesitated, unsure of who this man was, but Jack's eyes were cold, focused, and terrifyingly calm. Victor Kane, watching from the SUV, smirked. "A soldier uncle, huh? This will be fun." What the goons didn't know, what Victor didn't realize, was that they had just picked the wrong girl to mess with. The two goons tightened their grip on Emily, but Jack didn't waste a second. In one swift move, he closed the distance like a shadow. His fist cracked against the jaw of the first man, sending him crashing into the brick wall. The second thug tried pulling Emily toward the SUV, but Jack yanked him away with such force that the man stumbled, gasping for air. "Run, Emily," Jack barked. Emily bolted out of the alley, heart pounding, as tires screeched from the waiting SUV. Victor Kane leaned out the window, his lips curled into a cold grin. "Bring him to me," he ordered. 3 more men jumped out of the vehicle, each armed with metal pipes and knives. They surrounded Jack in the narrow alley. Most men would panic, but not Jack Reynolds. His breathing slowed, his eyes scanned every angle, calculating. The first thug lunged with a pipe. Jack sidestepped, twisted his arm, and slammed him face first into the hood of the SUV. Another came from behind, swinging a knife. Jack grabbed his wrist, disarmed him with surgical precision, and drove his knee into the thug's ribs. A sickening crack echoed. Victor's smile started to fade. This wasn't just some ex-soldier protecting his niece. This was something else, something dangerous. Emily, hiding behind a parked car at the end of the street, watched with tears in her eyes. She wanted to call 911, but fear froze her fingers. Suddenly, she saw Victor stepping out of the SUV. He wasn't like the others, tall, sharp suit, calm demeanor, a snake in human skin. He lit a cigar as if the chaos didn't matter. "Impressive," Victor said, clapping slowly as his men groaned on the ground. "But you're outnumbered, and I don't lose." Jack's voice was steady, low, the kind of tone that sent shivers down a man's spine. "You've already lost. You just don't know it yet." Victor's smirk widened. He signaled toward the other end of the street. From the shadows, a second SUV pulled up, more men armed this time. Emily's eyes widened. "Uncle Jack," she whispered, terrified. The alley was no longer just a fight. It had turned into a war zone. Jack tightened his fists, ready to unleash every ounce of his SEAL training. He had fought terrorists overseas, but this time it was different. This time it was family. And Victor Kane had no idea that he'd just declared war on a ghost. Jack planted his boots firmly on the cracked pavement, his shoulders squared, every muscle taut. The second SUV's doors flew open, and 4 more men spilled out, this time with guns. Emily gasped from her hiding spot, her hands trembling. "Careful," Victor barked, flicking ash from his cigar. "Don't hit the girl, she's worth too much." Those words made Jack's chest tighten like a vice. Worth too much. This wasn't just a random kidnapping. They had been targeting Emily for a reason. The first gunman raised his weapon. Jack ducked behind the hood of the SUV, bullets rattling against the metal. In one seamless motion, he grabbed the dropped knife from earlier, launched it across the alley, and embedded it into the shooter's shoulder. The man screamed, collapsing to the ground. Jack surged forward, disarming another gunman with a bone-snapping wrist twist before slamming his head into the side mirror. The alley turned into chaos, men shouting, glass shattering, gunshots echoing. Emily crouched lower, covering her ears, terrified. Victor watched calmly, almost entertained. "See, Jack, you're good, Navy SEAL good, but men like you're predictable. Always the hero, always rushing into the line of fire to protect someone else." He took a drag from his cigar, his tone dripping with arrogance. "That's why you'll lose." Jack grabbed one thug and slammed him into another, knocking both unconscious. He wiped blood from his knuckles, eyes burning with fury. "You don't know me." But Victor only smiled wider. "Oh, I know you better than you think. You're not my problem, Jack, she is." He nodded toward Emily, who froze like a deer in headlights. "Your precious niece isn't random, she's leverage." Emily's heart dropped. "Leverage for what?" she whispered. Victor's eyes glinted with malice. "Your brother, her father, owed me, big time, and he died before he could pay, so now she pays." Jack's breath caught. His late brother, Michael, Emily's father, had been gone for years, killed in what Jack thought was an accident. But now pieces began to click. Victor pointed at Emily like a trophy. "She's the debt, and debts, Mr. Reynolds, always get collected." Emily's eyes filled with tears, her entire world shattering. "Uncle Jack, Dad." Before Jack could respond, two thugs rushed Emily from the side. Jack lunged forward, but one gunshot rang out, forcing him to dive for cover. Emily screamed as the men grabbed her and dragged her toward the SUV. "Stop," Jack roared, but Victor raised his hand, signaling his men to hold their fire. Victor leaned closer, his grin cruel and victorious. "Looks like the hero failed." Emily kicked and struggled, but she was shoved inside the SUV. The engine roared to life. Jack ran toward it, but Victor's final words cut deep before the door slammed shut. "You can't protect her forever, Jack. This is just the beginning." The SUV sped off, leaving skid marks and silence in the alley. Jack stood in the smoke. Fists clenched, every nerve burning with rage and guilt. His niece was gone. His brother's secrets had come back from the grave. And Victor Kane had declared war on the wrong Navy SEAL. The city glowed in the distance as Jack's truck roared down the freeway. His eyes never blinked, his jaw tight. Emily's terrified face replayed in his head like a knife stabbing deeper with every mile. He had one lead. Victor's network ran an old warehouse at the San Diego docks. If Victor was serious about collecting the debt, that's where he'd take her. Jack wasn't guessing. He knew. Years of SEAL training had taught him to track men like Victor Kane, predators who thought they owned the shadows. At the docks, the warehouse loomed, dim lights flickering. Jack parked, loaded his last weapon, a suppressed pistol he'd kept from his service days, and moved like a phantom through the night. Every step was silent, every breath calculated. Inside, Victor sat in an office above the warehouse floor, sipping whiskey as Emily sat tied to a chair, eyes swollen from crying. He leaned close, whispering, "Your uncle can't save you. Men like him, always brave, always loud. But bravery dies. Money doesn't." Emily spat at him. Victor only laughed. "You've got fire. Too bad fire doesn't stop bullets." Suddenly darkness. The lights cut out. Silence pressed in. Then one by one the guards on the floor began to vanish. A muffled thud here, a strangled cry there. Guns clattered against the concrete, followed by silence again. Victor stiffened, fury breaking through his smug mask. "Reynolds." From the shadows, Jack appeared, dragging two unconscious thugs by their collars before dropping them like trash. His voice was low, deadly calm. "You took my family. Now I'm taking you." The warehouse erupted. Gunfire sprayed, but Jack moved like smoke, rolling, firing precise shots, breaking necks with brutal efficiency. The clang of metal pipes, the screams of men taken down one by one. It was a war zone, and Jack was the storm. Emily, heart racing, struggled against the ropes. "Uncle Jack." Victor grabbed her, pulling a gun to her temple. One step closer and she dies. Jack froze, pistol steady in his hand, eyes locked on Victor. His breathing slowed. 1 second, 2 seconds. Emily's tears ran down her cheeks. Then Jack said, almost whispering, "Seal rule number 1, never threaten my family." He fired. The bullet shattered Victor's wrist, the gun flying across the room. Emily screamed as Victor fell to his knees, clutching his mangled arm. Jack charged, slamming him against the wall, fists raining down like a hammer of justice. Years of rage, his brother's lies, Emily's abduction, Victor's arrogance, poured into every blow. Finally, Jack stopped, panting, holding Victor by the collar. "Why my brother? What did you do to him?" Victor coughed, blood dribbling from his mouth, a twisted smile on his face. "Your brother wasn't a saint, Reynolds. He worked for me. Smuggling, laundering, dirty money. He tried to quit. No one quits Victor Kane." Jack's heart sank. Michael, his brother, Emily's father, had been tangled in this darkness all along. Emily looked at Jack with shattered innocence, whispering, "Dad." Jack's voice broke, but his resolve didn't. "Your father made mistakes, Em, but you're not paying for them, not today." He snapped Victor's head back against the wall, knocking him unconscious. Jack untied Emily, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "I've got you. He'll never touch you again." As police sirens wailed in the distance, called anonymously by Jack before he stormed in, Emily clung to him, trembling. "You came for me." Jack kissed the top of her head, his voice steel and fire. "Always." The cops swarmed the warehouse, hauling Victor Kane's battered body away. But as Jack walked Emily out into the rising dawn, he knew this wasn't over. Victor had connections. Enemies like him didn't disappear, they waited, regrouped. But Jack Reynolds wasn't afraid. He was ready, because anyone who came for Emily again would face the ghost.